what we talk
God,
about is
yes.
simple common sense. And, essentially what you've got is, President Obama, I mean, we clearly, through this Congress, we haven't been able to get anything at all through them. We're certainly not getting anything through them next year. Very little of any value. Let's put it that way. And so clearly, the president has been showing that he can use the key parts of that office the Constitution allows: executive orders, like with immigration, and the diplomacy, like with Cuba, which we'll get to. And we kind of see this as completing that trifecta, which is, he stood up. Nick was one of the guys who fought for the minimum wage to go to $15 in Seattle, which is where he's based, and that was successful. And that sort of sent out a warning, across the bow of businesses, these right-wing Koch brothers type organizations across the country, that people want this. And the minimum wage was voted up in a number of states too, but people have been pushing that. But the argument that Nick makes, and I think it's a brilliant one, is that essentially the overtime pay is kind of for middle class working Americans what the minimum wage is for the working poor, which is that people have been working longer hours, making less money, and they always say they feel that way. And the truth of the matter is, because it's true. As always, you have to chart back to right before Reagan, because everything started to go to crap when Reagan came in. In 1975, overtime, 65% of salaried workers got overtime. We've now fallen to the point where only 11% get it. What is that in real terms? It means that only people who make up to $23,600 a year make it. So, which is insane.
And the thing that's people should understand why that's the case. It's because there was a threshold that set. This is just like one of those very small bore regulations in the Department of Labor. We're going to say anybody who makes X amount of dollars, and we do this all the time, right? I mean,
right.
The level of poverty is set.
Defining rules in different departments, and that's what this is, defining what a rule means, the Department of Labor.
And in 1975, the threshold was set at a certain place, and it hasn't kept pace with inflation. And
right.
so
it's kind of like what's happened with the minimum wage. But the difference is you need Congress for that. Because this is defining a rule, and that's the president's prerogative. President Obama, with the stroke of a pen, could give us a second stimulus, the kind of thing we've been asking for forever and wanting, and knowing we can't get through this Congress. 10.4 million. If he does what Nick wants him to do, and what Nick's been pushing for, and others who believe the same thing, essentially he would triple that threshold, so people making up to $69,000 a year could get overtime pay. And then there's also the classification for how it is. Right now, anybody classified as an executive or in a managerial position can be excluded, but there's all sorts of people playing games with that, who they define as managerial. So if you broaden who can fall under overtime, as opposed to making those categories more narrow, and if you triple that threshold to 69,000, as I said, 10.4 million people could get more money in their pockets around the holiday season now and next year. And so, you could be looking at it. Not only does this help the middle class that's been obviously hit in so many different ways, most recently with that Cromnibus bill, but it also, it really would help in terms of their consumer confidence. It helped put money in their pockets. More money to,
as Hannah was explaining to me, and I don't want to make the entire interview irrelevant, although it was a good conversation, but the other option is,
he's a fascinating guy, so he's worth listening to. And I'm not just saying that because I work with him. I work with him because he's a fascinating guy. And
the other option is that employers say, I don't want to pay time and a half to have these two workers work 60 hours a week. I'm going to hire a third person. and
employment goes down.
Exactly. And so you start to bring in line, sort of wages with productivity on some level. I mean, it's not a panacea,
right.
but it's one of those small things.
Raise wages, and wages have been flat. That's been the biggest. Everything that has really improved in our economy recently, with good economic growth, with unemployment going down, with the stock market doing well, and a number of other positive indicators, the one thing that has not really improved is wages. That have stayed mostly flat. This is another way. Like raising the minimum wage is another way that you help raise wages, and that's what. So the thing again that's key is people need to hear from President Obama needs to hear from people. And what's been great, he wrote a great piece for The Hill. It was picked up at Digby's Place and Daily Kos. Something on Daily Kos actually put up a link, which I would love it if you would do, Sam, if you're kind enough to do it, to a petition, to get people to sign this petition and to call President Obama and say,
definitely,
you know what, this is with the stroke of a pen.
And it's also, there's also like a threefer element to this too, because, and let's way to transition to Cuba. It seems like every 4 days now, 5 days, maybe every 10 days, the president just does something that it's like,
sends the right just careening towards suicidal impulses.
I mean, we were joking about this, I think, in the better half yesterday, that it's basically, he's like, here's the deal. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna say to Fox News, you're gonna get a ratings bump, and so he's doing. He's doing, sort of both ends of this. I mean, that's the negotiation.
I think if I had been him over the past 6 years, if I had gone through what he has gone through in terms of, I'm not, again, I'm not saying there weren't other things he could have done better, but I'm saying even if he had done things better, even if he'd done more by executive order and with appointments and things of that sort, still these guys would have been blocking a whole lot of stuff for the past 6 years. Just whatever he happened to say, whatever he happened to do, and their goal to make him a one-termer and their latent racism and the rest. So I think if I were him right now, I would just say I got two goals left. Well, I'm going to do as much good as I can do through the executive office to help people, and if I can tie that in with as much as can piss off the very people that have tried to screw my presidency, I'm going to do those two things.
Well, it's interesting.
That's what I would do.
It'll be interesting to see if that he can maintain this sort of pace, right? I mean, because clearly it is he has these 2 months have gone very differently than, and it's not even been 2 months, it's been 6 weeks since the election, than anyone would have predicted, I think, in terms of just sort of, I mean, aside from all of the policy implications of these moves, in terms of a narrative type of situation, you haven't seen the obituaries, the political obituaries for Obama that you would have anticipated.
But the lame duck, there's nothing left for him to do because he basically got up and did things right away. And
right.
Again, some of them, like the immigration one, I wish he'd done sooner, might have helped us save a Senate seat in Colorado, might have helped us save 3 or 4 House seats. But in the end, he didn't, and he did it when he did, and that's still far better than not doing it. And the same with what's happened with Cuba. And I would throw, again, overtime pay in with that. You want to bring back,
if he can do it,
white middle-class voters.
Right.
Well, overtime he can do. He just needs to sign the thing. I mean, there's nothing the Republicans can do. That's why we were encouraging people to reach out and contact him. It's all in his hands if he's willing to do that. And I think, who else are you trying to win back to the coalition? I mean, again, it's good policy, good politics. You want to convince, at least a lot of the white middle class and others who've drifted away from the Democratic Party not to just vote on, God, guns, and gays, to grab an old phrase. Well, give them something. As we've said, give them something positive. Show them that you actually are on their side. This would be that kind of thing.